Hi, myself Sanyam from General Art and Science. Today I will talk about Ted Bundy. Firstly, we start with an introduction. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer and rapist who is believed to have murdered at least 13 women and girls in 1970s. Bundy was known for his good looks and charming personality, which he used to gain the trust of his victims. Bundy was a master of deception and often changed his appearance and name to avoid detection by the authorities. Bundy's case has been the subject of numerous books, movies, and documentaries, and his heinous crimes continue fascinate and horrify people to this day. He is often cited as one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. Let's talk about Bundy's family information. First of all, Ted was born on November 24, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont. His parents were Eleanor Louise Connell and unknown father. Bundy's mother was unmarried at the time of his birth and she initially lived with his parents in Philadelphia. Here are some pictures with his mother and with his grandfather. Later, Bundy was adopted by his mother's new husband, Johnny Bundy, and took his last name. Bundy's biological father identity remains unknown. It was said that his grandfather was his biological father. Bundy had four siblings, two brothers and two sisters, and he was the eldest. Bundy had a young divorcee named Connell and Bonnie while he was on trial for the murder case, and the two managed even to conceive a child while Bundy was on death row. Bundy's family was largely avoided the media spotlight and has maintained their privacy. Bundy's daughter Rose Bundy, who was born during his time on death row, has also largely avoided media attention and has chosen to live a private life. Bundy has few friends and acquaintances through his life, although many of them were unaware of his disturbing behavior and criminal activities. Some of Bundy's friends included Anne Rule. Anne Rule was a true crime author and former co-worker of Bundy's at a crisis center in Seattle. Rule was initially unaware of Bundy's criminal activities, but she later wrote a book about their time working together and her shock at discovering his true identity. His second friend is Liz Clifford. Liz was Bundy's long-term girlfriend and they dated on and off for several years. Lyd has suspicion about Bundy's behavior but never reported him to the police. She later wrote a book about her relationship with Bundy. Fred Lawrence. Fred Lawrence was one of Bundy's closest friends while he was attending the University of Washington. They were both members of the same fraternity, and Lawrence later testified on Bundy's behalf during his trial. Wellflower was another of Bundy's friend from college. He helped Bundy move to Utah after he graduated and was with him when he was first arrested in 1975. Sharon was a co-worker of Bundy's at the Washington State Department of Emergency Services. They were friends and went on several double dates together. Let's move on childhood incidents. Ted Bundy's childhood was marked by a number of incidents that have been suggested as possible factors that contribute to his later criminal behavior. Some of the incidents included: the first one is illegitimacy. Bundy was born out of wedlock, which was considered a shameful condition that he later struggled with. Second one is abusive grandfather. Bundy's maternal grandfather was reportedly a violent and abusive man who terrorized his family. Bundy's mother was also physically and emotionally abusive towards him, which may have contributed to his violent tendencies. Third one is moving frequently. Bundy's family moved frequently when he was a child, which resulted in his challenging schools and having difficulties forming lasting friends. This may have contributed to feeling of social isolation and a lack of identity. Peeping Tom. He reportedly began to spy on his female classmate and later escalated to breaking into homes and committing theft and sexual assault. Injury. In his early teens, Bundy suffered a severe head injury while playing sports. Some researchers have suggested that his injury may have damaged the part of his brain responsible for impulse control and decision making. Work life. So, Ted Bundy held a number of different jobs through his life, included working at various political campaigns, serving as a counselor at a suicide hotline, and working for the Department of Emergency Services in Olympia, Washington. Bundy's employment history also included a brief stint at a Seattle Police Department in 1970, where he worked as a volunteer helping to investigate thefts. It is believed that his time at police department provided him with knowledge and skill that he later used to law enforcement during his killing spree. Now move on Bundy's education. During his time in college, Bundy was known to be charming and charismatic, and he used his intelligence and social skill to manipulate others. He was a highly intelligent individual who pursued higher education. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in physiology from the University of Puget Sound in 1972. He also attended the University of Washington where he studied Chinese. Bundy was also accepted into law school at the University of Utah and attended for a short time before dropping out. Interpersonal relations. Ted Bundy was known to be highly skilled in manipulating and deceiving people, and he used this ability to maintain relationships with friends, family, and romantic partners, while also engaging in criminal behavior. However, Bundy's interpersonal relationships were often criticized by instability and emotional volatility. He had difficulty forming long lasting relationships and struggled with intimacy, which may have been related to his traumatic childhood experience and his physiological issues. His romantic relationships were often short lived and marked by infidelity and manipulation. Psychological behavior. Ted Bundy exhibited a range of psychological behavior through his life, many of which are associated with personality disorders and antisocial behavior. Some of the key psychological traits and behavior that Bundy displayed included narcissism, impulsivity, lack of empathy, deception and manipulation, sexual deviance, and violence. Criminal activity prior to murder. In 1975, he was arrested in Utah for evading police after he was found driving irrationally with burglary tools in his car. In 1974, Bundy was also arrested to Colorado for failure to stop for a police officer, and a search of his car revealed handcuffs and ice picks and other suspicious items. However, Bundy was able to charm his way out of the situation and was released on bail. Bundy's criminal activities also included theft, forgery, and fraud. He used stolen credit cards to purchase goods and services and forged checks to obtain cash. While Bundy's early criminal activities may not have been as serious as his later murders, they are important to understand his part of his overall pattern of behavior and may provide insight into the underlying psychological factors that contributed to his violent crimes. Modus operandi and etymology. Ted Bundy's modus operandi varied somewhat throughout his killing spree, but there were several patterns that emerged in his crimes. Bundy would often approach his victim in public places such as college campus or parks and use his charm and good looks to gain their trust. He would sometimes pretend to be injured or disabled in order to get his victim to let down their guard. Once he had his victim alone, Bundy would usually hit them with the blunt object such as crowbars or tile iron, Bundy often engaged in necrophilia with the bodies of his victims after they were dead. He would sometimes revisit the crime scene and move the bodies to new locations in order to avoid detection. Bundy was known for his ability to change his appearance and adapt different identities, which allowed him to evade police for years. Many of Bundy's victims were young, attractive women with long, patted down the middle, which may have been type that he targeted. Crime scenes. The skull of Ted Bundy's ninth victim, Denise Netherland, discovered by two hunters near Issaca, Washington. Identifiable pattern. Bundy offenses did display some identifiable patterns. For example, he often targeted a young woman who resembled his ex-girlfriend, whom he was obsessed with. He also tended to commit his crime in areas where he was familiar, such as the Pacific Northwest, where he has lived for several years. Additionally, Bundy frequently revisited the locations where he had disposed of his victims' bodies, indicating that he may have taken pleasure in reliving his crimes. Apprehension. Ted Bundy was finally apprehended on February 15, 1978 in Pensacola, Florida. The circumstances that led to his arrest were as follows: traffic stop, evidence found in the car, forensic evidence, eyewitness identification. Bundy capture, additional evidence. Following his arrest, Bundy was charged with multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, and other crimes, and he eventually received several death sentences for his crime. Despite his numerous appeals and attempts to evade justice, Bundy was eventually executed in electric chair in 1989, bringing an end to one of the most infamous criminal cases in American history. Trial outcome. He was arrested multiple times, escaped from custody twice. Bundy's first trial was in Uth in 1976 for the kidnapping and attempted murder of Colonel Richard. He was found guilty and sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. In 1979, Bundy was put on trial for the murder of two Florida State University students, Lisa Levy and Margaret Bowman. He was found guilty and sentenced to death for the murder of Levy and Bowman. Bundy was tried again in 1980 for the murder of 12-year-old Kimberly Lynch, which he committed in Florida. 1978 was found guilty and sentenced to death once again. Motivation for the homicidal offense. Although Bundy himself provided some insight into his motivation during his various consequences and interviews, most experts believe that Bundy's homicidal behavior was driven by a complex mix of psychological and environmental factors. Some of factors that may have contributed to Bundy's motivation for his crime include childhood trauma, sexual desire, narcissism, lack of empathy, fantasy, and escalation. However, the true nature of his motivation may never be fully understood, as Bundy was a highly manipulative and deceptive individual who often provided conflicts explanation for his crimes. Typology. Organized serial killer. Bundy fits many of his characteristics of an organized serial killer. His crimes were carefully planned and executed. Legal cases. Some of the most notable legal cases involving Bundy include the Chi Omega murders, the Kimberly Lynch murder, the Coral Daroch kidnapping, the Bundy trials. Bundy was put on trial several times throughout his career, and he became known for his attempts to represent himself in court. All Bundy legal cases were marked by drama and controversy that make him famous. Bundy's known victims. Here are the names of 13 victims that Ted Bundy was convicted of or confessed to murdering. Key events in Bundy's life. November 24, 1946, Ted Bundy is born in Burlington, Vermont, and so on, still alive in people's mind. There have been many books, documentaries, and movies made about the Ted Bundy, some of which are The Strange Beside Me and My Anne Rule, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, The Bundy Tapes, Ted Bundy Falling for a Killer. That's all the information I found about Ted Bundy. Thank you.